Welcome back to Journey to Success, the channel where we explore stories of resilience, technology, history, and real life moments that shape the world we live in today. If you are new here, make sure to subscribe, because every story we share brings you closer to understanding the courage, innovation, and determination that move humanity forward. Today's story is both inspiring and dramatic, because it centers on a group of extraordinary women in uniform, an all-female U.S. Air Force C-17 Globemaster E crew, who were called upon to respond to an urgent mission that would test their training, discipline, and courage at the highest levels. The situation was tense, the mission was critical, and the speed at which they had to act left no room for hesitation. This is the story of how they took off in an emergency at full speed toward the Middle East, a mission that not only represents the professionalism of the United States Air Force but also highlights the evolving role of women in combat and high-stakes aviation. Before we dive into the moment of takeoff, it's important to understand what the C-17 Globemaster is and why it plays such an essential role in American power projection and humanitarian operations around the globe. The C-17 is a massive strategic and tactical airlift aircraft. It can carry troops, vehicles, tanks, helicopters, and even humanitarian aid supplies. With a wingspan of nearly 170 feet and a length of about 174 feet, it's one of the largest aircraft regularly operated by the Air Force. It is capable of short field takeoffs and landings, which means it can operate in environments where runways are limited or damaged. This flexibility makes it a backbone of U.S. Air Mobility Command, and whenever an emergency arises, whether it's combat deployment, humanitarian crisis, or medical evacuation, the C-17 is often one of the first assets called into action. On this particular mission, what made it remarkable wasn't just the urgency of the call but also the crew itself. Every position on board, from the pilot in command to the co-pilot, from the loadmaster to the crew chief, was filled by women. In a world where aviation has traditionally been dominated by men, the presence of an all-female crew on a mission of such intensity sends a powerful message about progress, equality, and capability. The story begins late at night on an air base. The base itself was already on high alert because of developments in the Middle East. Tensions had been rising for weeks, intelligence reports were coming in about possible threats to U.S. personnel and allies in the region, and the command staff knew that rapid deployment could be necessary at any moment. When the call came in, there was no time to waste. The order was clear. Get airborne immediately, full speed, destination, forward operating bases in the Middle East where U.S. forces needed immediate reinforcement and critical supplies. For the women who made up the C-17 crew, this was not just another flight. They had trained for years, flown countless missions, rehearsed emergency procedures, and practiced coordination under stress. But training and simulation can never fully replicate the adrenaline and intensity of a real-world emergency deployment. The crew had minutes, literally minutes, to conduct final checks, secure their gear, load additional cargo, and prepare the giant aircraft for launch. The runway lights glowed in the night, the engines roared to life, and the smell of jet fuel mixed with the crisp night air. As the aircraft taxied into position, the pilots knew that they would not be conducting a routine takeoff. This was a maximum performance launch, which meant pushing the aircraft's massive engines to their limit, accelerating as quickly as possible, and getting airborne under time pressure. The mission clock was ticking. With Allied forces depending on their arrival, every second mattered. The pilot in command, a major with over a decade of flying experience, gave the order. 4 powerful Pratt & Whitney F-117 engines responded, producing a combined thrust of over 160,000 pounds. The C-17 surged forward, its wheels rattling along the runway, acceleration pressing the crew into their seats. Even for seasoned Air Force aviators, the sensation of such a rapid takeoff in a fully loaded aircraft is unforgettable. The crew members focused on their tasks. The co-pilot monitored instruments, the loadmaster ensured cargo was secure, and the crew chief listened for any mechanical anomalies. The moment the plane lifted off, there was a split-second silence followed by calm voices over the intercom, confirming positive rate of climb, gear up, flaps set, climb power established. Within seconds, the massive gray bird was in the sky, heading toward one of the most unstable regions on Earth. Their flight path would take them over vast stretches of ocean and hostile territory. The Middle East at that moment was a cauldron of instability. In addition to the urgent needs of American forces, there were reports of potential missile threats, radar tracking, and hostile actors monitoring U.S. aircraft movements. The crew had to balance speed with safety, plotting routes that minimized exposure while ensuring they met their tight deadline. Inside the cockpit, the atmosphere was calm but charged. Years of training had conditioned these aviators to rely on checklists, procedures, and constant communication. The co-pilot called out airspeed and altitude, the pilot adjusted heading, and the navigator confirmed waypoints. In the cargo bay, the loadmaster reviewed the restraints securing military equipment that had to be delivered intact. Each woman on that plane carried not only the weight of her duties but also the knowledge that hundreds of soldiers and civilians were depending on their success. As the hours passed and the aircraft thundered across the skies, the crew reflected on what this mission meant. Being an all-female crew in a combat-related mission was not about making history or breaking barriers. It was about proving, once again, that professionalism and competence know no gender. These women weren't flying to make headlines, they were flying because the mission demanded it and they were the best crew for the job. Navigating into the Middle East required heightened vigilance. Electronic countermeasure systems were on standby, radar systems were scanned, and communication with Allied command centers was constant. Intelligence updates streamed in, keeping the crew aware of possible threats. Any miscalculation, any delay, could put them and their mission at risk. Eventually, after hours of tense but controlled flight, the C-17 descended toward its destination. Landing in the Middle East, especially at a forward base, was not the same as landing at a peacetime airfield. There were risks of attack, limited runway space, and the pressure of getting cargo offloaded quickly. As the landing gear touched down, the plane slowed, and the crew immediately transitioned to the next phase of their mission. Ground teams swarmed the aircraft, unloading equipment, supplies, and reinforcements. The all-female crew worked seamlessly with ground personnel, coordinating the flow of cargo, ensuring everything was delivered to the right units, and preparing the aircraft for a potential quick turnaround. News of the mission spread quickly within the Air Force community. While the general public may never hear all the details, since many elements of such missions remain classified, the story of an all-female crew responding with speed and precision resonated deeply. It demonstrated not just operational success but the power of inclusion and the importance of giving every qualified person the opportunity to serve. The significance of this mission also touches on a broader conversation about the price of readiness. The United States invests billions of dollars into its Air Force, its aircraft, and the training of its personnel. Each C-17 comes at a cost of around $218 million. Maintaining the fleet, training crews, fueling the aircraft, and conducting missions like this one requires immense financial resources. But the true price is not just measured in dollars, it is measured in the commitment of the people who serve, the sacrifices they make, and the risks they accept every time they step onto the flight line. For this crew, the price of their success was countless hours away from families, years of training, and the willingness to put themselves in harm's way for the mission. In return, they delivered not only critical supplies and reinforcements but also a message to the world. The United States Air Force is ready, its people are prepared, and women have an unshakable role at the center of that readiness. Their mission didn't end with the landing. They had to prepare for follow-on tasks, potential return flights, and the reality that their aircraft might be called into service again almost immediately. But the takeoff itself, the full-speed emergency launch toward the Middle East, became symbolic of their resolve and capability. This story is about more than aviation. It's about leadership, teamwork, and the breaking of barriers. It's about what happens when individuals rise to the occasion and prove, once again, that courage is not bound by gender. As we reflect on this mission, we recognize the countless service members who perform similar feats every day, often without recognition or headlines. Behind every flight, every deployment, and every mission are stories of individuals who give their all to ensure success. The all-female C-17 crew who launched into the night at full speed toward the Middle East remind us that success is never guaranteed, but it is always earned through preparation, dedication, and courage. Thank you for watching Journey to Success. If this story inspired you, share it with others, subscribe to the channel, and stay tuned for more stories of resilience, innovation, and the human spirit.